Nobody envied Tom Hardy when he stepped into the role of Bane, the big, bad, bald, butch bastard in The Dark Knight Rises, because, well, how do you top Heath Ledger's Joker? After all, he drove himself to near insanity in his portrayal of Mr. J, and it resulted in one of the most layered performances in the history of superhero movies. Well, say what you like about Tom Hardy, he's no f***ing slouch. The dude puts hard into Jesus, that's a lot of hard work, and here are just a handful of neat little touches of what could have been a bland muscle thug, you know, like he was in Batman and Robin. I'm Adam from Whatculture.com, and here are 8 little-known nuances that made Tom Hardy's Bane awesome. Number 8, Hardy wears high heels to be imposing. No, it's awesome. Considering the fact that full height actors have convincingly played hobbits through the use of suggestive camera work, the use of a rudimentary solution to create more height in The Dark Knight Rises might raise a few eyebrows, but it was necessary to make Bane more imposing. Of course, Tom Hardy had bulked up substantially for the role, but at 5'9", he was smaller than pretty much the whole of the male cast, meaning his terrorists could have easily come across as the overcompensating muscle douchebag. So to get around that, Hardy wore 3-inch lifts that put him on par with Bale's 6-foot Batman. Number 7, the lovely voice line was improvised. The football field destruction set piece was hugely exciting long before the film came out, and boy did it deliver. What really stuck out though was a throwaway line by Bane before the chaos ensued. Although he's about to revolutionize/subjugate Gotham, he takes a moment to enjoy the rendition of the national anthem from a young Gothamite who is very obviously Welsh. It seems that despite the heavily choreographed slant of Bane's destruction, that Tom Hardy was given the opportunity to improvise just as Ledger had for the Joker when he was blowing up that hospital, and that memorable musing, "That's a lovely, lovely voice," was created on the spur of the moment on set, in the process absolutely defining the whole sequence. Number 6, give him a hand. Speaking of improvisation, one of the coolest things about Bane was, sure, he's a slab of giant beef, but he didn't need to throw his considerable weight around, imparting a great deal of menace and physical domination with something as simple as placing a hand on a person's shoulder. Do you feel in charge? When it happened in Dark Knight Rises, he doesn't even grab Daggett's shoulder, he just places the hand there like, yep, there's my hand. What have you got? It's a fantastic subtle character moment made all the more impressive by the fact that Tom Hardy came up with it on the spur of the moment. Number 5, he hadn't even read the script when he took the role, so how does not reading the script make Bane awesome? Surely blindly jumping into a role means something could only ever be good by accident. Well, in this case, it was done for the right reasons. Apparently, Nolan came to Hardy shortly after Inception, when Rises was slowly formulating in his head, and asked him if he wanted to play a villain described only as requiring to wear a mask for 6 months. Hardy sidestepped that clause and made some demands of his own, that he got to have all the martial arts training he wanted, all the weapons he wanted, and all the Nolan time he wanted. With those demands met, he quickly signed up, so rather than just wanting to work with his Inception pal again, Hardy became Bane because he knew he'd be guaranteed to have the resources to make it the best he could. Number 4, Tom Hardy loves Batman and used his love to fight him harder. When Batman and Bane finally get to their showdown at the end of the film's first hour, it becomes woefully apparent Bruce Wayne is physically outmatched. The high heels help, but what really pushed over the edge was Bane's masterful fighting style, and that has a lot to do with Hardy loving the character. He's a huge Batman fan, he was mesmerized seeing The Dark Knight on set like the rest of us would be, and felt the metaphorical gut punch of giving his childhood hero a gut punch. For all the training, much of Bane's ferocity came from Hardy's attempt to override his feelings, creating something incredibly furious and hard-hitting. It's a warped reversal of traditional method acting. Number 3, the voice is based on a bare-knuckle boxer's. I mean, apparently, I've heard the two voices side by side and they're not incredibly similar, but, well, here we go. Obviously, Christopher Nolan likes to make changes to Batman lore. For example, the purpose of Bane's mask in the film is more scientifically grounded than feeding him an endless stream of magic muscle slurm. Another change was that, unlike the comics Bane, who's from Latin America, big screen Bane had an undeterminate origin and an accent to match. What many don't realise is that for the voice, Hardy took inspiration from Bartley Gorman, a bare-knuckle boxing champion. Gorman was a Romani gypsy, so even though he wasn't the expected Latino, it's still Romani Latin. In Hardy's words, underpinning the traditional Latin origins of the character whilst also giving the voice an unsettling, impossible-to-place quality. Number 2, he was mental to his body. Tom Hardy has something of a penchant for being a massive supervillain to his own body, packing on and shedding muscles at a rate that makes doctors shit themselves. For the role of Bane, he slapped on 30 pounds of muscles in a very short period. For those looking for a reference point, 30 pounds is a good medium-sized dog. All that much weight of muscle being put onto what we've established isn't the biggest frame in the world. Hardy is willing to go to these extremes for his movies regardless of the costs, and there have been costs. Hardy said of the damage to his body, "I certainly have joints that click that probably shouldn't click, you know what I mean, and carrying my children is a little bit harder than it used to be." That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. And number 1, Nolan chose Hardy because he acts with more than his mouth. Although Inception marked the first time Nolan and Hardy had worked together, the performance that really bears all the hallmarks of Bane is Bronson. Playing the most violent prisoner in Britain, Hardy delivered a chilling performance that elevated Nicholas Winding Refn's film, I'm pretty sure I've mispronounced that name, to haunting brilliance, with much of the film seeing him monologuing on stage to a non-existent audience. The final shot of the film, a grimacing smile, showed a real mastery of the whole face, not just general face movement. movements. It was that particular acting element that had Nolan convinced Hardy could deliver a worthy performance from behind a mask. He needed an actor who was comfortable using their whole body to create the character, often in a very over-the-top way, but who could also convey a confidence to not go too far. A balance of Hardy's quality of Bronson and Eames in Inception, basically. And you only have to look at that scene where he's talking about Harvey Dent to realize that with a mask on, that dude can act with the whole face. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from Whatculture.com, and I'll see you soon.